What's up, YouTube? Sorry, I know the fan's going, not the blast fan, but it's hot in here. We have had a busy couple days. Today's Friday, 19th or something, or no, 7-11. How did I forget that? 7-11. 19th, way off. But we are going up to the Harley homecoming thing in Milwaukee tomorrow, so Dottie and I will be up there with a couple other friends. Then we get to this fiasco. So I started the video, and I don't know where we left off, but I started chopping up the frame. I just cut these lower legs off. I left them long. I know this part is going to take a ton of time with a grinder and a flap wheel, trying to cut around these castings, but maintain this rear upper left side motor mount bolt. Same thing on this side, but this one's not as pronounced. So lots of grinding and cleanup to make that look as smooth as possible. But let me tell you, this is an 80 or 81 ironhead. I don't know. Trying to clean this up. Can't see it. H something. Whatever. It's a 79 to 81. It's that goofy year with the little triangle back section. This guy over here. So we cut that all off. Got this sectioned. I don't know where this hardtail came from, but it's not good. Straight up, I will admit. Knock me if I'm wrong or didn't cut it right if you've done one of these, but this thing was not even close to fitting proper. I ended up having to section the upper frame rails all the way up to this lower leg section, which I really didn't want to do. And being tube, I don't really have a good way to torch and bend this. I know I've seen people do it. Other people say you can fill them with sand, but the hardtail's all together. At that point, I'd almost remake the rear legs on my own from scratch instead of trying to tweak and modify and bend tube. However, I had my welder buddy come by and just pick his brain on it, and he suggested sectioning the frame and just slotting it. Now, a lot of the times if you're trying to do a clean bend or something like that, you want to cut the bottom of this so it kind of tacos in on itself and tightens up that gap. This being 120 wall tube, at least 120 wall, I don't know what that actually is, DOM tube or whatever they use on this. This is really thick material. Me cutting and sectioning this leaves a ton of meat for me to get a really deep, really hard hot weld into there. So I ended up having to create my own radius to make all this line up. And then if I put, I'm not going to put all the bolts in right now, but I'll just show you roughly with two kind of the issues that I've had with this frame. So this frame came with a weld-in section. I don't know, go back to the earlier videos. But there was a bridge piece welded here for shipping just to make sure everything stays kind of true. And it worked-ish, just not that well. But these rails on the bends for the hardtail itself are also not good. So I ended up having to do a ton of modifications on this, which I really wasn't wanting to take on. I did tell him that depending, because I didn't know what kind of hardtail it was, depending, this hardtail I want to say, it looks like the V-twin ones, which are 200-ish bucks, whereas you get into the lowbrow or lead slide, I can't remember what brands, but I do know for a fact they make full hardtail kits for the rears now, or for the goofy 79 to 81 years. And look at that. Look at this hammer. But for the 79 to 81 years, they finally started coming out with them. For a long time, you couldn't get anything for them because they were so ugly. And they were such a goofy frame. But this runs a bolt-in bottom, which works, kind of, but not the best. Okay, there we have it. Bolts are in. I don't have nuts on them. It's not tightened down or anything. But here is what we were looking at. So alignment-wise, I ended up having to take a ton of material out of the uppers, because they're supposed to tie into this triangle piece around the seat post. This still doesn't want to fit. So on this side I did 8 cuts. I ended up doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 on this side. A couple more farther back here, because this whole frame rail kind of came in towards the seat, but it's still offset. So I got this set up, and at one point I did have that side tacked up and in place, where that actually lined up really well. It's sitting down here. Will this land here evenly on this block? So if we have the hardtail in place, this side lines up really well. You know, it's just a smidge off right now, so I got to tweak it just a little bit, but the bolts are a little bit looser than they were when I had this all snugged up. This side lines up pretty good, direction-wise. There. I know it's kind of goofy seeing it cut up like that. This side, if you look straight down on it, we're about 1/4 inch off from lining up with the frame rails. So it's kind of turned into a whole giant headache trying to make all of this line up. I know if you look down here, it actually lined up a little bit better. But right now, that one works. It's just got to go down a tiny, tiny bit, but that's doable. And from here, you can kind of really see that overhang, hopefully. Right there. This is really where I wish the GoPro had a better zoom feature, but that's where we're at. I got everything kind of lined up, and being 1, thick wall, 2, these notches will burn in structurally sound. I'm not concerned. I wouldn't want to do that on really thin wall pipe. It is heavy, 120 wall minimum. I can mic it, but take my word for it. It's really thick, and there's a lot of meat. Now, I actually took the time and made sure that's why I have so many cuts on these. I took the time and made sure none of these gaps are over 1/8 inch for when we want to weld it back in and burn all that in. So I have plenty of meat on each of these. It'll kind of go in sections. We'll weld one bit and then start on the other end. I'm not going to put too much heat and try and distort this because some of these parts are really small. I don't love it. I don't like doing hardtails this way, but sometimes you kind of get yourself in a pickle and you got to make something work. I would really have liked to get this bent or get 45 pieces or something better than this. Not a huge fan. However, as long as it's structurally welded and solid in there, it also came with this seat post plate that's supposed to mount on the frame and bridge this whole gap. Well, here's the triangle they sent me. It does a fine job of covering up that right there on the triangle bit. That doesn't come anywhere near the hardtail section where it's supposed to be. I have no idea where that camera cut off. I just looked up and it stopped recording. I'm having all these problems with the GoPro. Thought this was recording the whole time. I have no idea where it cut out, but somewhere in here I was talking about the bolts. I got the bolts all in. Frame lines up-ish, but nothing lines up straight. But I also don't have a way to bend just the last inch or two of the tube comfortably. I don't think it'll bend. If it was an error down here and I could start working and heating down here and leverage it a little bit, maybe, but there's no way I would have been able to get a 45 radius down on the back like I did here, cutting it, okay? I like doing slugs, but with this frame design, I can't slug this frame. They give you this plate, which is supposed to also get welded on here, and that'll tie this upper section into the legs, but look at how short this is. If this wants to go over the triangle pieces, we come up short because it ends right about there. Now, part of me thought, well, maybe I cut this too short on the tubes. Well, the issue with that is these legs come up on such a steep angle, and being like kind of that FXR era stupid triangle frame, this actually sat like that and it kicks up the back half. So I wouldn't have had any better luck leaving that longer unless this would come up and then this would have to get cut to line up, which would actually heighten this hump a little bit more. Doing it this way, I was able to get these bends done. Like I know I gotta modify or tweak this just a hair, but I did have this side completely tacked up and in before I moved to the other side. But right there, it's still got way more dip than I would like to see on a traditional chopper frame, but I can work with that. It's still gonna be a cleaner line, and then when I'll either modify this or make a new one that stretches this section just to give me a little more structure on the outside for any of you concerned about the structural integrity of that welding them. I'm not going to be sitting here just running beads across each one next to each other and put a ton of heat in this. We'll take our time, but there's enough meat on those where that should work. I confirmed with my actual welder buddy and he suggested doing it this way. I like the idea of the top side because it being such thick wall tube, it lets me do deep welds into each of these. This frame also comes with this weird little plate. I don't know what this is for. Fender mount, maybe, but it's so offset because this is on the outside of the frame. I have no idea, other than maybe a weird battery tray mount or something, but I don't want it there. And it's ugly, it's bulky, it's in the way, and it's really gonna mess up putting motor mount bolts in. So we're gonna cut this off. And I want to do this before we actually weld the frame up, because then I'll be running out of room real quick. Now, I can grind this and clean that up. I'll cut that outside edge off, but there we go. Now we can start laying this frame back out and welding this up for realsies, I think. I am going to slightly bevel this edge on the frame. I know we got enough of it there. I just want to open these corners up a tiny bit on the edge just so I can get a really nice weld going into the frame. These ones I'm not too worried about. That'll burn in just fine. But we'll hit that with a grinder real quick, the last little bit. And then I want to at least get this tacked up tonight if I have, oh shit, I don't know if I have a jack. I'm going to need to use a car jack or something to clean this up. All right, so we got a nice little beveled edge all the way around here now. That will help. Not doing that to everyone, I don't need to. But now we can put this back together, hopefully for the last time. I know I can smooth out this lower bit a little bit more, but that should be fine after it's bolted and welded back in. Come on. And then we'll actually put some nuts on the back side of this. Apparently we got a tornado watch going on right now too. I don't know. Somebody told me that my phone didn't do anything or go off or nothing, but unfortunately I haven't paid too much attention to the weather. on. There's always got to be one stubborn one, right? It's not even touching up here. There's zero reason for that not to go in. Alright, so let me grab some 9/16 hardware. We'll throw these things back on, or 3/8 hardware, I mean. Do a final snug on these, and we'll get this side tacked up on the upper. I do have a frame jig that I thought about throwing this in. Just don't know if it's actually necessary. We'll take a look if I can get this to semi-layout level on the bench. But I think it should be okay. So now that this will be bolted in, we can kind of see what the frame wants to do in its current configuration. Alright, so now that's completely bolted in. Looks like this one did pull up just a smidge. Put the block in the back here. Alright, so now that that's fully tightened, we can kind of see some of the issues here. Ooh, maybe there is a storm coming. I can hear it. Now that this is fully tightened in, here's what we're looking at. This came way over. This one's still really close. But here's where it currently is sitting now that the bolts are in and tightened down. I was working on that right before the GoPro died. We are way off on this side. Angle-wise, we're almost spot on, but the frame definitely comes in too far. It's been like that the whole time. This, I gotta trim just a tiny bit more on this and then maybe bend, well, heat and bend this just a tiny, tiny bit more. We're so close. And I think, honestly, if I just run the grinder through here, that'll help me out. And that should clear. Actually, you know what? Let's try that. See if I can get that in right now before I gotta race home and beat the tornado. I don't think there's actually gonna be a tornado, but they did have a severe storm and tornado watch. And I'd rather not be on top of a hill where it already gets absurdly windy on a regular basis. There we go. Just hung up a tiny bit on the bottom there. But now this will line up almost perfect. So we'll finesse that a little bit. I think if I can get this side tacked in, I got the chamfer cut on this outer edge, so this will burn in nice and heavy. Yeah. I think it'd feel better with just a tiny bit more gap on the bottom. Just being such thick wall, I want to make sure that this will fully get burnt in. But now we have a nice smooth radius transition here on this side. And since everything's bolted and squared up down at the bottom, I'm not concerned about that. If we get this side tacked up and mounted, torch and spread this, I'll probably put a car jack in here and just push that side out once this has a couple tacks on it. So before we leave, I'm gonna tack this side in, and then I'm not gonna final weld it because I got other stuff to do tonight. But that's where we're at on this. So I am making progress on this. It just took me way longer than I wanted to. I didn't bring you along for all the pie cuts. Honestly, the 2 days I worked on this, I planned to, and I ran to my truck to grab the GoPro, and I left it at home because I'm so far behind on editing. So thank you guys for bearing with me. I know I've been a little bit slower on getting videos out. Oh, maybe I haven't. I've just had a plethora from a month ago that I'm just getting around to finishing up now. I was always about 2 weeks behind, now I'm about a month behind. Deal with it. But that's where we're at. Let me tack this up. So as you guys can see, this is lining up significantly better than it was before. Looks good forward back. Also looks good down the middle. Hopefully you guys can see that before I burn this in. But I think we're ready to throw some tacks on here. You know what? Actually got to tweak that other side just a smidge on the inside. Hanging up there. Now we're good. I'm happy with that, I think. It's all in the fitment, right? Right there. Buy the nicer hardtail kit. It's my one piece of advice. Everybody's all spoiled with the fancy ones that come slugged, and honestly, I would have bought the nicer kit just because I hate this dual down tube design on this bike in particular. I don't mind it on like a stock sporty, but this one's really ugly. It's got an oil filter mount up here. It's got these stupid cast split offs. I just was never a huge fan of. Now we got a nice chamfered edge here, so finish snugging the bolts up. We are good to go. Just gonna MIG tack a couple of these. At least that front one, because this side I am extremely happy with. Quick tacks right now. I'm not doing a full one. Because we need to make sure this is good. This one will take a little bit more effort and energy on the other side. Then I got one tack on all of these little splits, but since that is actually looking really good, this side, obviously, we're kind of gonna have to modify this a tiny bit more. Might actually have better luck with the saw. But we got two tacks on the front, connecting that rear frame to the hardtail section. I'm just gonna put 2 more tacks on these so it doesn't tweak itself all that much. This side I'm extremely happy with. This side's the one that just, the lower is fine. Everything bolts in the way it's supposed to. It's just this side needs to come out. But while we're at it, I don't need any of these moving on me. Plenty of meat, plenty of room in these to get that welded in nice and solid. Actually see how far the weld went in. So that side's pretty much done. Ish. And this side, I'm happy with the alignment up here, but I gotta get something in there and jack it like a car floor jack. Would work wonders here. Just push that out a tiny bit. And alignment wise, we're pretty much there. I think I gotta take a tiny bit more off the bottom of this. And if I loosen these bolts and slide that back, it should be just fine for that. But that's all we're doing tonight. So, slowly but surely making progress. Getting there. One section at a time. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Please don't yell at me about how ugly and improper this is, or how much more work it is for me to do it this way, because I know. Actually, if you want to yell at me, that's fine too. You won't offend me. There are much better hardtail kits, and there's much better ways to do this. I prefer slugging frames. Let me put that out there. This is not the way I like to do them, but given the circumstances, this is what we're doing. So that's where we're at on this. Chopper barn, that's coming up on the 26th. We are 15 days away. So get ready for that one. This hopefully will be off the lift by the end of the week. Well, end of next week. I'm hoping beginning of next week. But it's just been crazy. Mobile blast jobs are picking up, which is great. Oh, also got to do a brake job on Dottie's dad's car. Went to try and do that earlier today, and it didn't want to start. MAF sensor took a crap. Then I finally got it started, it ran, died every time you touch the gas. No check engine lights, finally had it running long enough, threw a code for a MAF sensor, tried cleaning the original one, didn't work, put a new one in, back to running perfect. So that's gonna get stretched, but other than that, last little chopper barn update. So hopefully you guys are coming out to the party. Message us on the Instagram if you got any questions. Dottie's got the pre-register thing going. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.